one and only, is here with us today. And I really hope you everybody out there who's listening really takes in what you're about to hear today, because it really is going to be the crux of what Miss South Africa is about this year. So really an important one. So if you're not on now, tell your friends to join or whatever it may be, and we can get going. So yeah, Yvonne, maybe just introduce yourself to the fans out there, and then we can get into it.
So thank you so much, Steffi. And of course, I'm very, very excited to be here. I am coming to you tonight from Mallorca, which is my new home. So I'm in Spain, where you can see it's a little bit darker here than it is in South Africa right now. But those of you who know me will know that my heart is completely connected to South Africa. I was the first chief executive of Brand South Africa. And so part of my whole life history is to get people to really commit to our country and to make it a better place for everyone to live in. I do have a cat here, as you will discover as we discover purpose, as we discuss purpose. My cats think that my purpose is to be their cat lap. So she doesn't like me talking, so please excuse her if she joins our Facebook, our Instagram live. And Steffi was right. This year, we're really going to start to look at the purpose. Why are you here? Why are you even thinking of joining? And I want, right from this start, before you even enter this beautiful, life-changing, amazing competition, I want you to start to dig deep and to question, what is your purpose for joining? Why do you want to do it? Do you think it's all about glamour? Do you think it's going to change your life? We want to hear what the cat has to say. The cat has to say that only beautiful people are here tonight. And we really want you to connect to what's the bigger picture. Because of course, there is a reason to enter Miss South Africa. You've watched the girls who've come before completely and utterly change their lives. But why are you here? And probably one of the most important things I want to say tonight is it's not about what you can get. It's about what you can give. And that's a really important shift in your mind that I really want you to get before you even start. So what are you going to give us as the audience, as South Africa? This is a job. You are going to be a brand ambassador. And of course it's glamorous, and of course it's beautiful, and of course you get spoiled to hell and back. Of course, but it's much more than that. It's like fast tracking into adulthood. If you speak to Zozi or Shudu or Lalela or Ndavi, they will say, we grew up real fast. Because suddenly you go from being 21 or 23 or 25 or whatever you are, and suddenly you're in the real world. Suddenly you're in a business. Suddenly you have a boss. That person above me on the screen, she's your new boss. And I've tried to teach her to be a really nice boss, but she's also a really tough boss. And our expectations of the women who enter this competition are very high. You have to be articulate. You have to be able to answer questions. You have to know what's going on politically. You have to know who the ministers are. You have to know who you're going to be interviewing. You have to know what you're going to be expected to do. So I want you to start thinking about what makes you unique, what makes you different, what really differentiates you from the thousands who are entering along with you. Why should we choose you? And this is the first challenge, is to do your first video that makes us want to go and watch it again. Yeah. Because we're going to watch all of them once, right? But what's going to make us say, wow, Steffi, I really want to go back to that girl. Who was the name of the girl in that beautiful green dress? I really want to watch her video again.
Yeah, that's exactly it, Yvonne. And I think more than that, it's also about, you know, getting the message across. And we talk about this a lot, you know, why should we choose you to be Miss South Africa? Why should you enter the competition? And I mean, that brings me to my first question. How does one start identifying their why? Why are they doing it?
Great question. And this is quite complicated and quite difficult, but in truth, I want you just to tune into yourself and say, why do you get up in the morning? What motivates you? What brings your passion alive? Because when you start to think about the 2 minutes you have to market yourselves to us, what should you say? What should you not say? What is important to say? What is important to leave out? Please don't bore us. You know, I was talking to Ndavi yesterday, and I was saying most of these Instagram lives drive me nuts because they're so boring. So what are you going to do that's going to grab us by the throat and say, you have to listen to me because I'm different? And a really important point here is to connect to your values. What do you stand for as a woman, as a South African, as a human being? What would you stand for as an ambassador for the organization and for our country? What do you stand for? Have an opinion, and please don't invent an opinion that you think is going to make us fall in love with you. Please don't guess what is in our heads and what we want. Please be real. So to get to your why, tune into yourself. What makes you excited and passionate, and speak from your heart? Yes,
Exactly.
yeah. Do the right notes, but bring us your heart.
Agreed. And I mean, that is something that we want to see, you know, as the organization. That's what we want to see in you, and you've got such a short time to do it. So how does one do that in 1 minute? You know, how do you get that punchiness across but make us fall in love immediately?
Absolutely. And I think that in the end, it's, and if you're not clear on your why, a very good way to start interrogating it is to go to your 10 best friends and actually find a few enemies as well, and say to them, tell me what makes me different. Tell me what makes me special, and listen to their feedback. Don't judge it. Don't criticize it. Just listen. And, you know, I'll give you my example. I love what I do. I love seeing people step into being the greatest version of themselves. That really is my purpose, to see you be great. When I get a message from somebody to say, I've changed my business, or you've changed my life, or I'm loving who I have become, that makes me say, that is my purpose. So when other people started saying to me, you're a healer, that is never a word I would have used for myself. But suddenly I began to see that actually my words can heal people. And as I said that, I got chills, and I knew that that was the summary of my purpose. I'm a healer. I don't run around the world saying, I heal, I heal. What I know is in my heart that when you come to me with an issue or a problem where you want to make your life better and you want to be a better version of yourself, I will tune into you and I will give you my heart to heal your heart. And that's what is my purpose. So I hope that it helps you.
And I mean, I've seen that myself. For everybody out there, I mean, you know, Yvonne has completely changed my outlook on things, and I think, you know, the entire team did a course. We were super privileged to be able to do a course with Yvonne, and it really has changed our outlook. And it's so important. And understanding your values and what you stand for is what we want to understand from you. We don't necessarily just want to hear, you know, you want to be Miss South Africa because you have a great charity. Okay, that's great, right?
Yeah.
But why? But why are you doing this is the question. And, you know, the key messaging around that is something important. So maybe Yvonne, kind of elaborate on how one would get into that deep kind of understanding of why they and how.
I'm going to give you two examples. I'm not going to mention who they are, but they are both women that I have coached through Miss South Africa. You'll probably guess who the first story is about, but you might not guess the second. The first person struggled a little bit when she entered Miss South Africa. We saw her potential. We saw that she could be absolutely amazing, but she was afraid. She was afraid because the thing that had really been the greatest trauma for her in her life was her mental state of mental wellness. And she was terrified of showing that to the world, terrified. And when we worked with her and said, be real, because here's an important question, guys. Can you tell when somebody's being fake? Hell yes, everybody can. So please don't bring us a sugar-coated version of yourself, because we will see it and it's not attractive. And this person was very vulnerable and very scared. And when we said to her, tune into what could you give to the world with the knowledge that you have, well, you know, the rest is history. Shirafata went on, I can cry actually, it makes me weepy. She went on to change the world with her view. She went on to change the world with her pain, with her knowledge, with her understanding, with her vulnerability. See, it's very moving for me.
No.
The other one was a girl who didn't come in the top 5 or top 3 or whatever. But she said to me, she phoned me one Sunday and she said, Yvonne, every time I'm interviewed, I cry because the experience that I had in my life was so traumatic for me that I struggled to talk about it without crying. And I said to her, without that experience, which makes you cry and which is hard and which hurts, who would you be? And she says, I'd be nothing. I'd be weak. I wouldn't be the strong powerhouse that I am today. And the second she said that, we said, that's your positioning. Tell us your story. Tell us why you are the strong, powerful woman that you are today. None of us become strong without pain. None of us. None of us learn without failure. We've all failed. There's not a single human being on this planet who has not failed. And who would you be if you had not failed?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I want to get to your why. Dig into you, your life experience. What have you learned? What has that taught you? And tell us your story. Tell us your story from your heart.
Now, it is that exactly, and that comes down to what we preach all the time, and we emphasize to be authentic, ladies, that are, you know, thinking about entry. Authenticity is key, and what Yvonne is talking about is that realness that we want, that rawness is the authentic bit of you, and understanding that that defines what you want to do with this platform and who you want to be is important. And I guess the question is, do they have to have it completely figured out?
Of course,
you know,
not. Of course not. If you had it all figured out, I wouldn't have a job. So please don't figure it all out, okay? Because one of the, you know, when Zosie stood up and was asked her final question at Miss Universe, she said, what do young women today need to learn? And she said, they need to learn leadership. And I love her forever for that. Because what happens when you enter Miss South Africa, and certainly when you win and you're in the top 3, you become a leader overnight. I mean, Zosie went to 2 million followers overnight, you know? You become a leader. And that's where I come in. So I come in and we, right from the very beginning, from top 30, we start to train you with leadership skills. We will teach you the skills of confidence, of how to be authentic, how to show up. Because this year we are going to test you. It's not going to be good enough to just be pretty. Of course that helps, but you've got to be smart and you've got to be astute and you've got to be strategic. And we will teach you those skills and we will hold you and support you on this journey. I'm still working with Ndavi. We're still, and Ayanda, we still, this week, we met to take their campaigns forward. You don't do any of this alone, but we're not going to rescue you. You have to bring it. You have to show up. This is a job. It's a fun job, but it's a job.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the most important lessons that Yvonne has ever taught me is you need to show up.
Yeah.
And you have to show up 100% of the time. You know, not 99%.
Yeah.
It's 100% of the time. And that's so important. And also how you communicate in the world with all of that is so important. So how does one communicate the best way? Because at the same time as Yvonne is an incredible master at what she sees she has now, she's also beyond an incredible communicator. So, you know, maybe just an insight into how one communicates that real depth of why and why they're here, and get that across in a way that makes sense to them.
I think if I could give you some advice, definitely don't try and be all things to all people, because then you're just a fuzzy blob. Okay, have an opinion. Choose one thing that you can really focus on, and then learn about it. Go and learn how to do it. So I'll give you something. I worked with Ndavi this week, and we were talking about if she wants to create great content. So I said to her, go and learn to be a great interviewer. So I've set up for her to meet with some journalists who are going to teach her how to ask great questions. It really starts to hone your craft. Learn, go in search of the knowledge. There are going to be a whole lot of people around you who can support you. And really be in love with your campaign. So that, how will you know it's right? When it gives you goosebumps. When you start to talk to people and it gives them goosebumps and they go, oh, that's wonderful. Oh, I love that. So if you look back on the history of Bassi, look at what she focused on. Look at Oprah. Look at what Oprah focused on. Really learn from the other people, and exactly what Kaylee is saying on the chat right now. Hone your craft. And we're going to be there to help you. So choose something that really inspires you, that you think you could commit to for a whole year. And then when you go to discuss it, have no more than 3 key messages. So here's a thought. When you finish, when you leave a room, what do you want people to be saying about you? So think about what you want to leave them with. Be very intentional on what your 3 key messages are. Never have more than 3. Where it starts to fail is when people try to do too much, say too much, be too much, and they become overwhelming and fuzzy. And what Tiosha is saying in the chat, true leaders are here to serve. And I love that, because becoming Miss South Africa is absolutely a space of service. What makes me happy is to serve you, to serve South Africa, to serve entrepreneurs, to serve the women of our country, to make them great. And when you truly get into service, that's where joy is found, without question.
Agreed. And I think that's what we're all here to do, because ultimately we all want to create this amazing woman-led world where we have more female leaders in our midst, and really push boundaries with it. And that's what the platform sets out to do, you know, which is really important. And just to kind of reiterate what you're saying, you know, Yvonne comes in and she ultimately takes us on this journey, and you girls on this journey. And it's not only the winner, it's not just about the winner. There are some incredible young women who've come through this process and learned and taken away so much. And that's the other part of it. Make sure that you're not coming in with the intention to just win. Yeah. Of course, that's an intention, but take away what you need to from it. So maybe just elaborate on that kind of, you know, what are you doing here?
Yeah, I think this is really an important point, Steffi, because 10,000 women are going to enter and only one is going to win. And in fact, I remember having this conversation with Ndavi before she went to Miss Universe. And I said, how are you going to feel if you don't win? And she said, I'm going to be devastated. So I said, well, what's the point of that? What's the point of being devastated if you don't win? So the question here is, will you be a better human having been through this process than you are now? Will you have learned? Are you open to learning? You know, we've watched girls who didn't get into the top 10 storm out of the room and throw a temper tantrum. And immediately our brains go, oh God, let's hope she doesn't enter next year. Because we've already tuned into the fact that that wasn't the right attitude. The right attitude is what is going to get you through. What I want to reiterate is a fun process, but it's not easy. This is not an easy process, nor would we want it to be. because we want the people who are prepared to fight for it. We want the people who are going to be the cream that rise to the top. We want the people who are going to be mature, handle criticism. I mean, one of the things, oh, I love this, you don't have to win the crown to win. No, you don't. In fact, most of you aren't going to win the crown. That doesn't mean you haven't won. And already I know some of the girls who entered last year are re-entering. And I'm so excited about that, because are they better versions of themselves now, this year, than last year? Of course. We know how Renelle entered a few times. We know that. So what can you learn? How can you be a better person tomorrow than you are today? Are you open to criticism? Are you open to feedback? Are you open to being told what to do? Because to resist that, to think that you are suddenly this amazingly special human being and need to be treated differently, is not going to work. This is a servant leadership position.
Correct. And you know, my next question to you is, you know, it's with all of that, there's obviously negativity that comes along with the title, with you know, where we stand and being a front-facing or public-facing figure. There's a lot of criticism that comes with it. And I guess my question for you is, how does one deal with that? How does one deal with the backlash? How do you not internalize it and make it part of you, but ultimately walk away still feeling good about it?
It's hard. I'm not going to pretend that this is easy. I think that dealing with criticism is always hard, but one of my favorite coaches in the world is a woman called Byron Katie. And she has written a beautiful piece called Embracing Criticism. And her take on it, which I love, is that is anyone who gives you criticism is giving you their perspective of you. That doesn't mean it's wrong. It just means it's their perspective. And if you can learn what their perspective is and learn from it and grow from it and say, yeah, maybe today I was a bit arrogant, actually. Maybe I was behaving a bit spoiled today. And you can start to adapt your behavior, then it's useful. So if you see criticism as useful, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. It doesn't mean that you have to take it all personally, because you know what happens. Somebody wakes up in the morning and their kid has puked on the floor, and then the husband kicks over the cereal bowl, and then the son walks in and he's not in the correct school uniform, and you're starting your day and you're thinking, oh, for God's sake, can anything else go wrong today? And you drive into the office and the traffic is awful, and you get into the office and your secretary hasn't put your coffee on the desk, and you bark at the poor woman. But it's got nothing to do with the poor woman and the coffee. It's got to do with the fact that you are having a horrible start to your day. And your horrible start to your day creates a lens through which you look at your day. So people who are being ugly to you, and this is really an important thing to learn, is it's about them. It's not about you. I had people who did not like the fact that I was the chief executive of Brand South Africa. And I remember saying to them, you're probably right. I'm probably not educated enough to do this job. I definitely don't have all the right knowledge to do this job, but I'm going to learn. And my job is to make you 3 years from now totally believe that I was the right person to do this job. So I took the criticism and I learned from it. And I said, they are right, actually. Often, criticism is correct. Often, it's your, what we call in coaching language, we call your shadow. It's the stuff that you don't like about yourself that triggers you. If it doesn't trigger you, it's really their stuff. And I see the word humility come up on the screen. I love humility, and my greatest demonstration of humility, it's quite hard for me to tell this story without crying. As you can see, I'm a bit of a softie. I weep a lot when I see beautiful things. But my greatest experience of humility was I was at a Nelson Mandela Children's Foundation event. There were about 200 people in the room. and a little kid from the Eastern Cape had been flown up to meet with Madiba. And he was a little boy who'd been born with half legs and half arms. So he was tiny, and he had his arms ended here and his legs ended just above his knees. And Madiba picked up this little boy and walked up onto the stage, and the entire audience just erupted. And everybody stood up and they clapped and they ululated and they applauded and applauded and applauded and applauded. And of course it was for Madiba. Of course. His gentleness at picking up this delicate little boy. And Madiba looked down at this kid and he said, "Do you hear how they are clapping for you? Do you hear the applause for you?" And for me, that was the greatest sign of humility, that he didn't take any of it for himself. We knew it was for him, and he just bounced it right back and gave this little boy what I hope would be a moment that he will remember for the rest of his life. Certainly I do. I mean, I find it hard to tell that story without crying, because it was such a moving moment. And that for me is humility.
Yeah.
When you don't take it on. And humility, the girls in Miss South Africa who don't have humility don't last very long. Because humility is a beautiful quality. And it is not about how to think more of yourself. It's about how to think of others more. Make others. And that comes back to what I said about purpose. Entering this competition is not about what you can get. It's about what you give. What are you giving to the people that you will interact with? What are they going to be left with when you leave a room? And if you can take that perspective with you and think about what you're going to give to the world in your video, you stand a much greater chance of us wanting to watch your video a second time.
Couldn't agree more. And I mean, with that, I mean, ladies, we could keep Yvonne here all night, but I think that bottom line is there's so much more to learn and there's so much more to discover about yourselves. And this is just kind of the first insight into what your why should be, right? So I think what I'm going to ask is if there's any specific questions or any thoughts that you have, Yvonne, that you'd like to directly answer here. And then if people want to get in touch, maybe just tell them how they get in touch with you. Sure. and what that can lead to for them. Yeah.
Of course. So this is when as you start to think about how to present yourself, this is not a checklist. So write the checklist of kind of what you want to say and then throw it away. Because what we want is, I'm going to reiterate it, is to see your heart, to feel who you are as a human being. Sorry, this cat is really beginning to enter into the picture here now. But this is mommy's boy, sitting here on my lap. He's such a little morphy, honestly. I just love him to bits. But he follows me everywhere. He's like my little shadow. So speak your truth. Have a point of view. Do not be afraid of being slightly controversial, because if you are vanilla, you're just going to be vanilla and you're going to disappear. We don't want vanilla. We want ambassadors. We want exciting people. We want people who are going to inspire us. We want people that we want to follow everything that they do, because they inspire us to be better human beings. So I think about your 3 key messages. Have a point of view. Don't be afraid. Be courageous. I haven't mentioned that word this evening, but actually being courageous is a beautiful thing. It's a very compelling energy. Claim your power. Women, claim your power. Like, step into who you truly are and own it. You know, Winston Churchill, my favorite quote is Winston Churchill quote, and he said, "You have enemies. Good. That means you stood up for something sometime." So please don't be vanilla. Vanilla is not appealing. Go and be exciting and challenging, and if some people don't like you, that's fantastic. There's certainly some people who don't like me. I couldn't give a damn. I really couldn't give a damn. Go and be you, because I go towards the people who adore me and love me. And of course there are those. There will always be people who don't like you. Doesn't matter. Go and choose your tribe, the people who relate to you, who you inspire and who inspire you and who make you better. And often it is the criticism that makes you better. So when somebody comes along and is critical, your response should be, thank you, thank you. Thank you for being brave enough to tell me what you think. And thank you for giving me your perspective, because it will make me better. Claim your power. So to get in touch with me, yvonnejohnston.co.za. The Miss South Africa organization has my South African cell number. I'm Yvonne Johnston Coach on Instagram, so you're following me here, and I look forward to engaging you all and taking those who inspire us on this journey for the next year. It is my great privilege and my great honor to work with Steffi, to work with her team, and to work with the beautiful women of South Africa. It is my privilege.
Thank you, Yvonne. As always, absolutely incredible. And I feel like everybody should give you a standing ovation for that beautiful, beautiful kind of lesson that you've taught these young women. We look forward to seeing you soon. And
yes,
ladies, if you want to get in touch and make sure that you keep an eye on what Yvonne's doing, because ultimately she's the best person to learn from here. Thank you again.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you, Steffi.
Goodbye,
Thank you, everybody.